as we get rolling, but I thought we'd just jump into it. I want to thank. I see some names on here of coaches that are coaching this year, so I want to thank you for not only attending the coach meetings earlier this week, but also the parent meeting orientation as well too, so you can see what the parents themselves are hearing. So for those that aren't familiar with River Falls Youth Football, I wanted to kind of lay out the agenda of what we're going to talk about tonight for the orientation. The first part, I want to talk a little bit about where we came from and where we are today, and what our goal is as an organization. From there, I'm going to talk a little bit about what the resources are for the coaches and the consistency we're looking to build with a youth football program on into middle school and high school. Excuse me. And then from there, with it being 2020, obviously we're going to spend a good amount of time talking about some of the COVID-19 mitigation efforts that we're putting into place, what our plans are, and in your role in that as parents, grandparents, and family members of having an athlete that's playing youth football. So we'll talk through that. And then one of the bigger pieces as well is honestly just making sure that everyone understands the communication that's coming from the youth football board, the communication that's hopefully coming from your coaches. And we talked a lot about that at the coach meetings earlier this week, making sure that that there's an open line of communication, not only of awareness of where kids need to be and times and all of those things, but just open communication to make sure that we're all on the same page, especially with everything as fluid as it is here in 2020. So there is a chat, excuse me, there's a chat box that feel free to ask questions in the chat box. I'll do my best to keep my eye on the chat as we get rolling here. And if I also will do my best to open up to questions throughout the presentation and throughout the hopefully discussion. At the end, I also have left time for questions. So if you want to wait till the end to chat in a question or speak up, feel free to do that as well too. So without further ado, I'm just going to get started. So for those that don't know me, my name is Josh Kluge, and I'm president of River Falls Youth Football. It was about, I don't know, probably 2-3 years ago, something like that I joined the board and took over the kind of the primary leadership role on with the program. It was right around the time that actually Coach Creel came to the community and became varsity head football coach. So over the last few years, have had the opportunity, both the board, myself, have had the opportunity to work really closely with Coach Creel and really kind of build a program where it is today. For those that aren't aware, several years back or a few years back, it was a tackle program. So for kids that were in 3rd through 6th grade, it was a full tackle football program. When I wound up taking over the program and kind of working with the new board, we worked with Coach Creel to transition it to full flag. So it's full flag football from 1st to 6th grade. And really, why did we do that? Outside of, some of the injury pieces and some of those topics that have obviously been very popular discussions for a number of years. One of the biggest things we want parents and the community and coaches to be very clear on, at the end of the day, our goal is to help kids realize a passion for the game of football. While they're part of youth football, we want them to enhance their knowledge, their skills, and have fun in the process. So whether it's, kids are playing flag football now with us and hopefully they wind up still playing football in middle school and high school when it is tackle. But if they don't, that's fine too. We just, again, want to start that spark and love for the game of football and start at a young age. And, I think a prime example, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself too. So besides kind of my board membership. So I actually my wife and I have 3 kids. So my oldest is going into 5th grade. He's going to be playing with the 5th and 6th grade group level. My second child is Anna. She's going into 2nd grade, and she'll be playing with River Falls Youth Football for the first time this year. And so I don't know if any of you parents are out there are the same as me, but I think it's a certain point where it's maybe better for your kids to be coached by somebody else. I think my son might need a break from dad for at least a season there. So I'll be coaching Anna for first and second grade. And then my wife and I have a third kid that's going into 4K. Not sure if she's going to be as passionate about football as the other two. She's really into unicorns and fairies at this point. But my point is, whether it's boys, girls, grade level, doesn't matter. We just, again, want to grow knowledge, have fun, have passion for the game of football moving forward. So we have a lot of resources, both for coaches and you parents. And I outside of the equipment resources, outside of the practice resources and game resources we have, I think the most important piece is the people resources. So obviously I'm not only president, but then I also oversee really our primary communications from River Falls Youth Football to the families and to the community, and do a lot of work on that front. From there, what we've broken down the board into is grade directors. So we want to make sure that at each appropriate grade level, there is that central point of contact for coaches and for families to be able to go to with questions, or as simple as what field is my kid playing on, and where am I supposed to go to even asking questions about what are some things that they can do to practice at home. So I'll go through real briefly the resources we have there. So for the grade director for first and second grade, I think we're really lucky to have Ryan Engelbert join our board. He joined just a few months ago. He's got a little guy that's starting first grade, and so Ryan is going to be the first and second grade director. For those who don't know Ryan, really good guy. He is the founder and owner of ETS Performance, and has a very, very strong background in football, working with high school, college, even professional athletes. At the end of the day, whether it's Ryan or it's any of the other grade directors, what we're looking for to build a culture on the youth football board, it's less about how much football knowledge, and it's great that Ryan has that. It's phenomenal, but it's about, again, that understanding that it's more about the kid's experience and lighting that spark for the game of football. So for third and fourth grade, we have Dan Treichel, who's the grade director. Dan has been a youth football coach for a number of years, very approachable, another great guy. And so don't ever hesitate to reach out to Dan either. For fifth and sixth grade, we have Chad Visger. Chad was also the grade director for fifth and sixth grade last year. So his son is going into sixth grade. Chad has been very active in the community for baseball, in football, and I think even basketball too. So very active, gives back a ton, approachable as well. So don't ever feel like you're bugging any of the grade directors, myself, or any of us if you have questions or need anything. And then we have a new role this year. So we have what we're calling Director of Operations, and that's Jason Frederickson. So Jason is really the point person, or the person that's in charge to make sure that our coach bins are set up, that the fields are set up for games, kind of working with me to work with the high school refs, the football players that wind up reffing the games, and kind of all those little millions of little things that we need to juggle on practice nights and game mornings. Because of COVID-19, I'll get into a lot more detail on some of the focus we're putting on that. But one of the big pieces is that Jason is going to be the COVID-19 primary contact from the youth football board. So we have told coaches that if they have questions or concerns or anything that comes up, that he is their primary point of contact. And same thing goes for you as families as well too. So feel free to contact Jason. I will be sharing his contact information as a follow-up here as well too. And then the last image you'll see there is Rissa Wojcik. So Rissa oversees all of our finances and makes sure that we are in the black as an organization and as a nonprofit. And so I would say too, with that, your participation, your investment in River Falls Youth Football, your registration, it goes to pretty significant costs. So we have everything from the shirts and the uniforms and the flags and all the equipment that the kids use for practice and games. But also we set a good portion of the money aside to give back to the community. So by signing up your kids to play youth football, not only is that experience what you're investing in, but you're also reinvesting into the River Falls in Western Wisconsin community. So we do give back, of course, to the football program quite a bit, both at the high school and middle school. We give back to the Sunshine Club in kind of on down the list of different ways, in addition to even college scholarships. So let me dig into the timing of what kind of what the season's going to look like here. Let me see here. So we've got in the past we've had practices scheduled 2 times a week. So every team practiced 2 times a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 o'clock. Because the number of kids that we have coming out for football, we just, because of COVID-19, we need to really focus on spacing out the kids during practice. So what that means is instead of 2 practices a week, it's actually going to be 1 practice a week for all of the teams. So if you're a parent of a child that's in 1st or 2nd grade, it means your practice is always going to be on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock. And if you have a child that's in 3rd and 4th grade, it's always going to be Thursdays at 6 o'clock. 5th and 6th grade, we have a larger number of kids that have come out for 5th and 6th, and they also need more space for when they practice. So we're actually splitting up 5th and 6th between Tuesday and Thursday nights. So if you're in the team's schedule and kind of the team assignments will be coming out here within the week. But if you're a team that in 5th and 6th, it's team 1 through 4, you're going to practice on Tuesdays. If you're a grade 5-6 team 5 through 8, you'll practice on Thursdays at 6 o'clock. And let's see here. If we go to the next page, the other piece I want to make you guys aware of is that we, because we had a very, very condensed registration calendar, and honestly just a very condensed registration in general, we had to kind of pinch the number of games that we have available to the kids. So in the past, it had been 6 games because we started a little bit earlier in September to be able to do that. But in reality, just to be as transparent as possible, we were holding off as long as we could before we started the season, just in the event there was any communication that came down from the state of Wisconsin, from the county, from the city or the school district that the fields would not be made available to us. So very, very thankful that that is the case, that the fields are available and that the kids are able to play. So we have it split up again with the whole concept to give more space and minimize the number of groups of people that are intermixing together. If you're at 1st and 2nd grade, you're always going to play at 10 o'clock on Saturdays. If you're 3rd and 4th grade, you're always going to play at 11:15. And then 5th and 6th grade teams, you're always going to play at 12:30 on Saturdays. So just a kind of a heads up on that. Any questions before I kind of wrap up the calendar over the next couple of months here? I'll open up to either chat or audio. All right, since there's nobody, I'll keep on plowing ahead here. So one of the things that we had done in the past, really every year, is we had a player combine night. And actually in previous years, we had combines that went anywhere from 2 nights to 3 different nights, where the kids basically would kind of cycle through by grade level, grade group level, cycle through to 5 different stations. And it was an opportunity for the coaches to get a feel for the kids and kind of get a baseline of, kind of their, if they're, super quick, or if they're just kind of more confident or just kind of more experienced within football. And just kind of, I hate to use the word grading, especially when you're talking about 8 and 9-year-olds or 7-year-olds. So it's not less than grading, but just more kind of getting a feel for the kids. And really the point of doing that, and know that for those that that have volunteered with youth athletics before, it takes a lot of time to try to then organize the team based on kind of all of those ratings. But that is what we had done in the past, with the ultimate goal, just try to get the teams as even as possible. So again, it's a good experience for the kids going into it. So with all of that as the backdrop, I want to let you know, we actually are not going to have a combine night this year. And so that you should have read that in the most recent communication I'd sent out. The reason for that, when we started looking at the number of kids that we're going to be cycling through these stations, we're looking at, anywhere from 12 to 18, nearly 20 kids per station. And that's a lot. On a good year, when there's not a global pandemic, that's a lot for coaches, volunteer coaches, to try to juggle and have it work well. And so in an effort to, number one, minimize brain damage from a logistics standpoint, and number two, and even more importantly, to make sure that we truly are doing everything throughout the season to mitigate COVID risk, we decided to not do a combine this year. So what's going to happen is this weekend, the grade directors and I are going to look at some of the ratings from last year for the kids, use that as kind of a rough baseline of how to build up the teams. Obviously, there's a number of kids that didn't play last year, and so we're honestly just going to do our best to make the teams work the best that we can. So with that, I think this is a good time to also communicate, the two words that I think, for me, we need to focus on in 2020, probably in the big for 2020, but I'm thinking more specifically for this upcoming youth football season. And those two words are patience and grace. So let's, maybe one team is not, as competitive as another, or maybe whatever the situation is. Honestly, let's have patience with each other. Let's really, and how I look at this season as, I think it's a gift that we are able to watch our kids play flag football this fall. For the number of months and weeks, we didn't know if this is going to be able to happen or not. So, let's appreciate it, enjoy it. Again, assume positive intent, whether it's with other parents, coaches, on down the list, other kids. Let's have patience with each other in grace. Let's, nothing's perfect, but I think if we go in with that spirit and attitude, both as families, coaches, board members, I think that'll make all the difference. So with that said, note that I'm going to email out, and we're going to email out the team assignments to both the coaches and parents coming up on Sunday, August 30th. So that's when you'll receive the communication of what team your child is on and who their coach is. So the very first practice. So if you're a first or second grader, or on team 1 through 4 for grades 5th through 6th, next Tuesday, September 1st, is going to be your first practice at Meyer Middle School. If you're grades 3rd and 4th, or teams 5 through 8 for grades 5th through 5th and 6th, then your first practice is going to be on Thursday the 3rd. Was there a question that somebody had? No? Okay. And then if we take a look at the calendar, then the first game weekend is going to be on Saturday the 19th. And the way we're going to have this set up, and actually I'll go back to the practice side of this. The way we're going to have this set up is when you get the email communication as far as what team your child or children are playing on, I'll make sure that you also have a map of the practice field. And so I think that's going to be the next important thing to keep in mind here is, and actually, you know what, I'll show that practice field here in just a few minutes. But the gist of it is that first practice and every practice moving forward, we're not going to congregate together. You're actually going to wind up going to the same section of the football field every single practice.
Close the door.
Meet you there, so you'll be able to know where to go. Was there a question, or is that? If not, you know what? I'm just going to mute everybody in the event somebody had inadvertently unmuted. So, but again, feel free to unmute if you have questions. All right. And then we wrap up October 10th. And the coaches we're going to hopefully be able to have a coach appreciation event like we do in other years. So now digging in a little bit of the COVID-19 piece of this. Really what we're focusing on are kind of three things: focusing on maximizing space, minimizing physical contact, and just making it as a sanitary environment as we possibly can, considering we're talking about, you know, being outside and dirt and grass and little kids. So, but those are the three things that we'll be focused on. Again, like I said before, we're going to practice one time a week. Again, when we look at the map, you'll be able to see we're going to be able to significantly spread out the teams. And each team, just so you're aware, each team will be roughly anywhere from 9 to 10 kids. I believe the 5th and 6th, I believe they will have 11 kids on their team, or at least some kids will have 11. But I do have to say, those of you that have volunteered to help coach this year, thank you, because we do have enough volunteer coaches where there is going to be anywhere from 2 to 3 coaches for every single team. Like I said before, we're going to go down from 6 games to 4 games. And then the timing of that also will help spread out the number of people that are going to be at the Meyer Middle School football fields all at one time. So in regards to minimizing physical contact, what we're looking at doing here and what our request is, we're requesting the coaches and the teams not to line up for handshake after the game. You know, even on, again, when there's not a global pandemic, I've always thought it was a little bit gross when, you know, some kid's been sucking on his football glove or her football glove all game and then is giving another kid a high five. So it's probably for the better that we're not going to shake hands. With that said, I think there's the board and I are going to work with the coaches on something else that we can do after the game to still show that sportsmanship, show that kind of cohesiveness as a group, but not necessarily give each other high fives after the game. We're going to request teams not to break down in a tight huddle and kind of break down that way, either on the sidelines or on the field. You know, again, bear with us, you know, have patience. You know, it may organically happen, but again, we're requesting that coaches and teams not do that for obvious reasons. As far as huddles, we're urging the coaches to space out the huddles in the fields as much as possible. To be very honest, even when we're not trying to space out kids, it sometimes is a challenge to really communicate what the play is supposed to be anyway. So again, coaches are going to do their best to space them out, but still make sure that the kids can hear and understand what the actual play is that's going to be called during the game. We're also requesting players to space out on the sidelines if they're not playing on the field. Again, this goes back to, thankfully, we have 2 to 3 coaches for every team. So that's a great job for one of the coaches, is to be able to make sure if the kids aren't in the game, that they're kind of spread out that way. Or as a parent, you know, honestly, if you can offer up your services to help with that during games, we'd appreciate that. I don't have it here, but one of the other pieces, we're going to have the teams that are playing each other and not be in the same sideline. They'll be on opposite sidelines, and we'll have enough space to be able to do that as well too. And we are going to request families to not attend practices. So that, with that said, absolutely, totally cool if you you walk your player, your son or your daughter to their practice area where their team practices, to make sure that they know where they're going and they're all kosher. That's phenomenal, especially the first couple of weeks. But after you do that, we're going to ask you to either go back to your car or go back home for 45 minutes before the practice is done. Again, looking to just minimize the number of people that are at practices. And then last but not least, we are going to urge families, again, to minimize game attendance to just immediate family. At the end of the day, grandma, grandpa, or cousins, or on down the list, obviously, they want to see these games too. What we're looking for here is, let's just be smart. Let's minimize the number of people actually attending the games in order to make sure that we do have space and not increasing risk. The hygienic focus, that was the next piece that we're focused on here. The coaches in the coaches bin will have everything that they need to take care of their team, meaning they'll have a sanitizer, and we've asked them to sanitize the balls, the flags, the cones before and after practices and before and after the games. We'll be providing hand sanitizer in each coach bin as well. This is a request from the school district. The coaches, each team needs to take attendance at each practice and in each game. They are then going to be dropping off that attendance sheet at the football shed, so we know every single week what kids were at practice, what kids were at games, and more detail will be provided as we get into the first week of practice here. But again, we request players, families, coaches, refs, anybody that's involved to check signs for illness. Doesn't necessarily even have to be COVID, but just really check for those signs of a fever, loss of taste. Again, some of those pieces. We'll just, if you're curious, we're mirroring what the school district is doing. So if you're familiar with what the River Falls School District's expectations are, that's exactly what we are mirroring as well too, to have that cohesiveness there as well too. The players are going to use, and this is the sanitary piece too, the players are going to use the same flag belt for both practices and games. In previous years, we had a game belt was just used for games, and another game belts that were a little more beat up there for practice. Part of your registration is to purchase really a high-end custom flag belt. And so we are working with an organization out of Austin, Texas that has literally made us customized flag belts that are very durable. It says Wildcats football on it. They look really, really nice. And anyway, long story short, the very first practice, the kids are going to have that flag belt that will be theirs. The coaches will have scissors, tape, and a marker to make sure the scissors and tape is, if the belt is too long, to be able to cut off any excess parts of it, and the tape is to tape up any kind of excess part of the belt. And of course, the marker is to write down the kid's name on it. So the flag belt will stay with the coach in the coach bin for both practices and games, and will be sanitized as well too. We are going to provide disposable masks. We're going to have roughly 20 disposable masks for each team in the bin, coach bin. So at this point, there is not a requirement to have the kids wear a mask at practice, or have the coach to wear a mask at practice, because we are outside. And again, we have all these extras, taking into account all these other aspects that we're doing to space out players and minimize team size and all of those things. With that said, we're providing those masks in the event a coach or a parent feels more comfortable that their child or coach wants to wear a mask. So those are available and they don't have it. The other piece I would say with that is everything is fluid. I think we're all used to that at this point. So I'd say, that could change if the rules do change in relation to needing to wear masks at practice and games. Last but not least, I had mentioned that Jason Fredrickson is our COVID-19 lead. So again, you'll have his contact information if you have questions, concerns. If somebody in your family has tested positive, we're asking you to immediately email Jason. Myself too would be wonderful. And from there, we're going to obviously communicate to the rest of the team if anybody else happens to be exposed. This next slide, I kind of said to the coaches, this is kind of like the depressing slide, but I definitely look at this as something that we're doing to limit COVID-19 exposure. These are all of the additional events and experiences that we typically have every other year. But I just want to go through that if you're, again, kind of looking at, what's being done to minimize risk. And if anybody asks you, So this year, we're not having a youth football camp. We didn't have it. Like I said, we're not having the combine night. We're not doing the team picture day. We're not going to have the kids scrimmage at halftime at the varsity high school game. We also, and this is really sad too, I know one of the kids' favorite things every year is to have a practice night with UWRF Falcons with Coach Walker and his team. So for obvious reasons, we're not going to be able to do that this year. Last year we did for the first time. We did a pass punt kick contest. Really good feedback. I think the kids had a blast doing that. And but we won't be able to do that again this year. Last year we wanted to start the tradition of have Thursday night under the lights. And so 3rd, 4th, and 5th and 6th graders had the opportunity to play at the high school turf, the new turf at the high school underneath the lights on a Thursday night. Again, kids had an absolute blast doing that. But again, if we're looking at only one field, there's just not enough space to be able to kind of work that out. And then our year-end celebration will not be happening either. Any questions before I kind of go into the map of where you're going to be going for practices and things of that nature? All right. Well, I'm gonna keep plowing ahead then. So here's the map. So as I had mentioned, because we're splitting up the practices between different nights, we have a lot more space. So when you get the email and you find out that your 5th or 6th grader is on team 1, that means that on Tuesday, September 1st, it's going to be your first practice. And what we're going to ask you to do is, and now from an orientation standpoint, if you're approaching the football field from kind of that football shed or approaching it from Meyer Middle School, if you go to that far right-hand corner, I guess that's to the kind of the southeast, it would be. That's where your team is going to meet. So we're not going to have any kind of kickoff like we would normally do in the past, where we get all the kids congregated together and then kind of release them to the different groups. Please just take your player right to that portion of the football field for team 1. Now, if you have a first or 2nd grader that's on team 1, then you're going to go to that far left-hand corner of the football field. And again, that's every single practice. That's where your kids will need to go to for practice. And the coaches will be there. There'll be Jason and I are going to, and other board members are going to make sure that the practice, there's signs that are set up that actually notes, what team number is in what part of the field. And then we'll have the coach pens that first practice laid out for the coaches as well too. So if we look at Thursday night, so again, next Thursday, September 3rd, if you're team 5 for 5th and 6th grade, team 5, you're going to again go in that southeast corner, that right-hand kind of quadrant, and just take your kid straight there, or have your kid go straight there. 3rd and 4th, they're going to be taking over the space where 1st and 2nd was practicing on Tuesday nights, and same thing goes. So if you're in team 1 for grade 3 and 4, again, it's that kind of far left-hand corner over there. So there should be more than enough space for practice to have kids keep separated, and again have it be a good experience. When it comes to the fields themselves, so again, we have it broken up. So 1st and 2nd grade is going to play at 10 o'clock, and when they play at 10 o'clock, you'll notice that they will always either be playing on game field 5, 6, 7, or 8. Again, kind of those fields where they are practicing. And then the 3rd and 4th graders are going to be playing next. They start at 11:15. They also will be playing at game fields 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so again, they should be used to that, because that's again where they're practicing as well too. And then for 5th and 6th graders, they're going to be playing they're going to start playing at 12:30, and they'll play either game field 1, 2, 3, or 4. And I'll go into the formats of the field as to how that is set up as well too. So real quick, I just want to share this because I want to make it really clear. The coaches are volunteering their time, whether assistant coach or head coach, and we give them as many resources as we possibly can. We make this available right on the River Falls football website. So just because we have coach resources on there, feel free to look at it yourself. Feel free to download it. Feel free to use it just to get yourself more acclimated with maybe some kind of fun drills and things you can do with your kids, or even at home. And what we're communicating to the coaches, this is in the, kind of the coach guide that we shared earlier this week. I think there's a couple things that I want to reinforce to the parents as well. Again, the whole goal of our program is to help the kids realize a passion for the game, increase their knowledge or skills, and make sure that they're just having fun and have that spark for football. What our expectation is is that there is positive leadership from every coach. It doesn't matter assistant or head coach, but again, there's that positive leadership. I'll touch on this a little bit later too, but we also expect that from the parents and family members, that there is positive leadership, that you're setting your kids up for success in their kind of mental approach as they're going into this. And I would say the other piece that is really important to reinforce with the kids, and I've as a coach and I coached with other folks over the years, I call it the big three, or the three rules. And the big three are talking to your kid about showing respect, talking to your kid about playing hard, and talking to your kid about having fun. Those are the big three. Those are the three rules. When we talk about showing respect, I mean showing respect to their coaches and they're listening, showing respect to their teammates, and they're being a good teammate and building up their teammates and being a good leader from that standpoint. Of course, respecting the referees during games and their opponents. And I think that is absolutely the biggest one. Everything else typically kind of falls into line after that, but having an effort and getting after it. So I had actually asked my son, for those families that are new to youth football, what do you think they need to know? We're going to have this parent meeting. It's going to be over Zoom. It's going to be probably awkward. I don't know if people are listening or not, but if you want them to know something, what do you think they should know? So this is out of the mouth of my son. He said, you should let them know that it meaning youth football, you should let them know it isn't for a big trophy or millions of dollars. It's for fun and competing for fun. So let's all keep that all in mind. I think all of us need some normalcy, both kids and adults, after the last several months. So it's our opportunity to be able to do that. So what I'm going to do also is I will provide as a follow-up a link to the parent expectation handbook and information handbook. I didn't want to just go through, I think it's like 20 pages of kind of just dry words, but I do think it's very important that you have access to it. And on really 90% of what we covered, already covered, is in here. But I want a couple things that are going to be in there to look for. Number one, from a communication standpoint, please always look for email communication from the coaches of your kids' team, from the youth football board, but other resources. I think go to ruralfallsfootball.com. Try to upload as much information and as many resources as we can to that site without making it too busy, hopefully. So you have everything you need as a parent or a coach or a family member. So I would say always start there. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, actually even YouTube now. So if there's any kind of updates to the program, absolutely, that will be shared on there as well too. As far as what families, our expectations of families, again, like Ed mentioned before, it comes down to not only being open to the communication you're receiving, but I urge you to be proactive in your communication with your coaches that your kids are playing on. So introducing yourself, offering to help, all those little things go a long way. And I really look at this as we're in this together. We're all volunteers, whether it's the coaches or myself or board members. We're all volunteers just looking to, really just have a good experience for the kids and have a good season. Again, I would say last but not least, make sure that you're very positive with your kids, that you're showing that leadership, that you're guiding them to have the appropriate expectations. If it's a game situation and something, bothers you and a play or a penalty wasn't called by the ref, please keep in mind, we're talking about, these are teenage kids. These are, football players and Coach Crail's team. They're taking time out of their Saturday to help coach your kids and our kids in youth football. So take it easy on them. I would also say on the coaches, I've asked them to, if there's something that hasn't been called, whether it's stiff arms, whatever it might be, don't worry about the other team, worry about your own kids, okay? Control what you can control as a coach, be a leader, and making sure that your team and your kids are doing the right things. And again, things will work out in the end there. I'm gonna at a high level kind of go through the rules, not every single rule, so don't worry about that, but just some of the basic things to kind of keep in mind. Is there any questions before I touch on that piece? Okay, I'm going to jump into it so we can keep going. So the format of the fields. So in previous years, for first and second and third and fourth, we actually had 3 football fields on every regular football field. And so again, because we're spacing out the kids for the games, we're actually going to have just two games on each field. So for first, second, third, fourth, you just have 2 games on the field. Like I said before, you're going to have we're going to want to make sure that the teams are on opposite sides, and they actually go sideline to sideline. So if you look at where it says no run zone, that yellow no run zone, if you're an offense, you're going to start at that 5-yard line, which is kind of the top of that no run zone. You're going to have 4 downs to get to midfield, and the midfield is a first down marker. Once you get a first down, you then have 4 downs to get into the end zone. Now, the no run zone, what does that mean? What it means is if the ball at the line of scrimmage is lined up within 5 yards of the midfield marker or lined up within 5 yards of the end zone, then it means that the offense cannot call a running play. So we've kind of got back and forth on whether we should or should not have our no run zone, but due to coach feedback, parent feedback, we're keeping it in. And the reason being, if it's an aggressive kid that, let's say it's 4th and 1 or 4th and goal, and the coach calls a sweep play where it's supposed to be handed off and kind of run out to the outside, that sweep play very easily can turn into a straight ahead dive play where then that kid goes straight ahead and puts his head down or her head down to try to get into the end zone. And that's the last thing we want to do, to have some type of head-on-head or some type of collision. So absolutely, that's why we have the no run zone set up there. For 5th and 6th, this field format we set up last year for the first time, had some really good feedback on it, so we're going to continue to do it. For those that are familiar with 7-on-7 football at the kind of high school or even college level, it's somewhat similar to that. We're literally, it's going to be 7-on-7 football, and the kids are going to be playing on an entire half of the football field. So the same thing will happen, meaning if you're an offense, you're going to start at the 5-yard line, and then you work your way to midfield to try to get a first down, and then work your way 4 downs to get into the end zone. So because of the width of the field, we're playing the actual width of a real football field. What we found last year, and which was our hope, is that there was a lot more scoring, a lot more action, because there's so much more space for the kids to play 7-on-7. So some of the key rules, and again, I'm not going to go through every single thing, but I think there's some important things to keep in mind here. We already talked about the no run zone, but equipment, please make sure your kid has a mouth guard for every practice and every single game. Make sure that they have non-metal cleats or tennis shoes that they're playing on, and for games that they are wearing their uniform. They're wearing the reversible jersey that we're going to be providing them, and that jersey needs to be tucked into their pants or into their shorts, because we don't want it covering up the flags. And as I said before, the flag belts, we don't want any kind of excess material hanging off of that flag belt. A few years back, I remember being actually in another league, but there was excess belt that was hanging off of one kid that had the ball. He's running, and then another kid ran up to get the flag, accidentally grabbed that excess part of the flag belt, and it just cinched up on this poor kid's waist, and he was in a lot of pain. So we don't want any dangling pieces on that belt. That's why we're going to tape it up and make sure we don't have that issue. The games themselves, I typically have run 45 to 50 minutes. It's a running clock with 20-minute halves. It's 1 timeout per half, and the clock does stop with 2 minutes left in the game. So just a heads up on that. There is no such thing as a fumble that gets turned over. So we don't want to have a bunch of monkey piles. And so if a kid does fumble, if she's running and it slips out of her hand and there's a fumble, it just means that they're down. Let's say on another play, a player slips and his or her knee touches the ground, they're down right there, even though a flag has not been pulled. With that said, if they slip and their hand touches to keep their balance and their elbow does not touch and their knee does not touch, then they're still able to go. If a flag falls off, the flag belts that we got, I would be surprised if they fall off because they are really durable and I think well made. But if it inadvertently falls off, then it's one hand touch to get them down. Punts, there's no real punting, but the punting basically means, hey, we're gonna give the ball back to the other team because we don't think we're gonna get a first down, and they're gonna get the ball at their own 5-yard line. Poor conduct is determined by the ref. So again, swearing, tackling, running through players, those types of things it'd be a 15-yard penalty. I give the example to the coaches that, I expect the coaches to also manage that. So if they have one of their own players that does something that's inappropriate and beyond, it goes out of bounds, that they take action on that too, not to rely on a 15, 16-year-old kid to make the right call. And a personal experience that actually happened last year. There was a kid that's on our team. He's probably one of our best, if not our best player, and he was frustrated. And when he's on defense, he didn't get the flag, and so he wound up body checking the offensive player out of bounds and knocking the kid out of bounds. So as the coach and as the coaching group, that player was yanked. He didn't play the rest of the game. So again, we're looking at the coaches to step up and lead their kids as well too. The last couple things I would touch on, I'm not going to get into every single detail here, but first and second grade, the coaches, one of the coaches will play quarterback. The reason we do that is we want to get every kid the opportunity to not only get a handoff, but to try to catch the football. But for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, it is kids at quarterback. And there is, if you're quarterback, there is no scrambling or rushing unless you've been blitzed. If you've been blitzed, and as soon as that defender crosses the line of scrimmage, then the quarterback can cross the line of scrimmage and scramble, for a first down if they want to. But just a heads up on that, the ref, there will be a ref that marks the spot on the field that's 7 yards away from the line of scrimmage. And if a defense blitzes, that person on defense or kids on defense need to be behind that 7-yard marker. So that's how that works. Play action for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So if you do a play action pass, it's not really a handoff, but it actually turns into a pass. Kids can cross the line of scrimmage without being beyond that line without being behind the blitz marker, because in the kid's mind, how are they supposed to know it's not a run play? So you're giving up that opportunity to no blitz if you do play action. I would say remind your kids not to stiff arm, not to flag guard. It happens every single practice, every single game. So the more we can remind not to do that, the better, because I think that's where some of the frustrations come in. 6 points for touchdowns, extra points, how they're measured. If the team goes for 1 point, they'll have to go from the 5-yard line, which means there's no running. If they want to go for 2 points, they'll go from the 10-yard line. Let's see here. And this is the last slide that I have. So of the last 50 minutes, I've covered a ton of content, a ton of information. So that's why I'll follow up with some links and resources as a follow-up to this. But as you walk away as a family, here are the things that we want you to remember. Again, the goal is to help these kids have a passion for football, increase their knowledge and their skills, as basic as just catching a football with their hands, and just having fun. And I think we need this in 2020 to have fun and let the kids have fun. Again, make sure you're watching for email communication. Communication is going to be key, especially as limited as we are in our ability to be face-to-face like we have in past years. And please proactively, like I said, proactively reach out to your coaches, introduce yourself. Make sure your coaches, whether it's head coach, assistant coach, knows who you are, who your kids are. I think that makes all the difference as well too. And again, the big three: show respect, play hard, have fun. So with that, any questions? As we've got about 9 minutes left here. Any questions that anybody has you want to put in chat, or feel free to speak up.
I guess I just had a quick question.
Sure.
Oh, you can hear me. Oh, good.
Yep. Yeah.
I know it's going to be really challenging to put teams together, and I think this year especially will be challenging. My thought is that because there's cohorts and school recesses are divided even by grade level, they won't have an opportunity to play with their friends on the playground, even football, because their classes will have to rotate between zones, and it's going to be challenging. I guess I was just wondering if there's any way that you're looking at least having one grade level kid from their school on their team this year, because there's been times I know that hasn't happened.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And I think that's a really good point. Typically, we have not looked at that. It's really been kind of based on that kind of grading or that scale. But I think that's a really good point. Especially, I think that's a really good point. That's something we can
I just
look
really
at.
want my child to enjoy football this year,
absolutely.
because there's a lot that are being taken away from them this year.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I think that's a really good point. And so I think that's one of the things we can look at. And we in the past, we really haven't opened it up to, kind of friend requests, for kind of obvious reasons, because we're trying to make them as even as possible. But if we can look at it as a grade, the grade directors and myself this week, and I'm kind of thinking out loud here, maybe there's a way to definitely, see if that there's at least a couple of kids from Westside or a couple of kids from Rocky Branch or whatever it might be. But it is going to take a lot of time to juggle it all.
Okay, sure.
Was there another question?
Yeah, okay.
All right, I'm gonna mute all, and then if you do have a question, feel free to speak up. The last thing.
Okay, I'm sorry. One last question.
Oh,
I
sure.
apologize. You mentioned blitzing in there briefly.
Yep.
I know in the past there have been a few teams that blitz pretty regularly. Is there a set amount of blitzing per game?
Absolutely.
Or per rundown?
Yep, absolutely. So how the blitzing works is there absolutely it's limited, and so for 5th and 6th grade, it's limited to 3 blitzes per half. For 3rd and 4th, it's limited to 2 blitzes per half. And so on the ref sheet or scoring sheet that they have, actually they note on there how many blitzes per half each team has made. And the reason we do that, it's exactly for that question, to make sure that there's actual passes being completed, not just kids running around with like a chicken with their head cut off back there. And then it looks like in chat, there was a question, any team snacks for after games? So I guess I would open that up to the teams themselves. And, we don't have a rule on that per se, or whether you should or shouldn't have team snacks. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think talk with your coach and the other parents if people are comfortable, with that. I think that is fine. We still kind of have to live here. It looks like, there's another question here. Should parents wear pants or shorts without pockets? Very good point. So yes, they should not have pockets. So in past years, we had provided shorts, because we are not providing shorts this year because the expense of the jerseys and t-shirts and the flags and honestly all the COVID related expenses. But you should absolutely have shorts or pants that don't have pockets. If they do have pockets, we're going to ask the coaches to actually tape up the pockets. Again, the idea is if kids going for a flag, they don't get their finger stuck in a pocket and pull out a ligament or yank a ligament or anything. So I'm going to look and see if there's any other questions here. I don't think I missed anything else. I think that's it. So unless somebody has something else to mention or bring up, like I said, I'm going to follow up on a couple different items specifically to the parents on what are the expectations for COVID. Again, we're mirroring the school district on that. But again, I want to continue to reinforce, and it's on the website, everything we're doing proactively to try to mitigate risk, still give these kids a really good experience and have fun. So I want to thank everybody that joined this call, spent time in your evening to do this. Like I said, I think this is our opportunity to give the kids back some normalcy, even give ourselves back some normalcy, and to give anything you can do to help out the coaches as well, because I think it's really amazing how the number of the grown-ups, parents, and even family friends have stepped up. They don't, people that don't even have kids in the program stepped up to help coach, because they know how important it is to kids mentally and emotionally and socially to be able to have a good season. So thanks everybody. Let's have a great season, and appreciate everybody joining. Have a great night, everybody.